Hi, my name is Erica Van Eaton. You can find me at ericavaneatonhealing.com. Today we're going to talk about perspective shifts, why we need to have a perspective shift if we want to properly move through an emotion or an experience, a trauma, or anything like that. And then we're going to talk about how to move and shift perspectives. So perspective shifts allow us to shift frequency, a frequency that we are running and experiencing in regards to a person or a situation, place, thing. So when we have an experience with someone, or we are in relationship with someone, or we have some kind of external experience that doesn't feel so hot, there is almost like an imprint in our field of the frequency that experience occurred, or that the frequency that we experience with that other person. And it doesn't always have to be bad, but when we are wanting to heal, shift, move into a different dimensional plane or a different kind of experience with ourselves or with someone else, we have to begin to, I've done a million videos on releasing enmeshments, but we have to release that imprint, that enmeshment in our field, because every time we look at that experience, when that experience is enmeshed in our field, or that person, we're looking at it through the lens of the frequency of which it occurred. So if you were in a situation where you were harmed or abused or hurt in some way, that carries the frequency, that memory carries the frequency of that experience. And every time you look through the lens of the imprint in your field, because remember, you're trillions of atoms. Every experience you've ever had are molecules of energy too. And all molecules of energy are vibrating a certain frequency. So this packet of information in the energy field that you're connected to, every time you look through it, when it's enmeshed in your field, you're looking through it through that frequency. So every time you look through that frequency, you begin to experience those same emotions, and you can only see that one dimension of that experience. And so you go back into that pain or the anger or the resentment or the shame or whatever it is. So we have to change our perspective. We have to shift our frequency, which can allow us to actually change our perspective. So when we look back on these things that happen through our lives, we can collect the wisdom that was gained from the experience while releasing the trauma. This allows us to have a bigger overview. Imagine if you're standing on the moon and you're looking down at the earth at these different experiences that you've had and how small they actually seem when you're standing on the moon. You have a bigger, broader view of the situation, of the relationship, of the other person, of the experience. It's a perspective shift. But we can't have a perspective shift. It's really difficult, or maybe we can have it for a minute, but then we go right back to being triggered by that same kind of experience, or when we think about it, if we haven't released the imprint from our field. Because again, we're always looking through these imprints at these memories in the field, or at this person, at the situation. Okay, go ahead and take a deep breath in. And slowly exhale that out. On the next inhale in, I want you to push your tongue to the roof of your mouth, like up to the top. When you put pressure up there, it begins to link up your hypothalamus to release some good feeling hormones. So breathe in through the nose and press to the top of your mouth. And then you can let it go out through your mouth. I don't know if you guys can hear in the background my pup snoring underneath my chair, but if you hear something, that's her. So again, on the inhale, breathe nice and slowly in, pressing your tongue up to the roof of your mouth to activate that hypothalamus. And then let it nice out through your mouth. So we're just coming back home to the body. We are releasing good feeling hormones to the body. Okay, now I want you to think about this person or this experience or this trauma or this stressor in your life. But I want you to imagine encapsulating it in a bubble of light. So again, it's just a packet of information. It's just a packet of energy in the field. Even if it's a person, that person is a packet of energy. I am just a packet of energy. So this is a packet of energy, and you're placing them in a white bubble of light so that you are protected and they are protected, or this experience is protected. Okay, so they're in a white bubble of light. Now put a white bubble of light around yourself too. Just imagine, and I like white because it reflects all colors, right? Very good. Good job. Now what we're going to begin to do is to release this imprint from your field so that you can shift your perspective. I'm yawning, which means that a lot of energy is coming in and a lot of energy is going out. You don't have to quite know how you're going to shift your perspective, or you don't have to quite see the light on the other side of it. Just hold the intention. Okay, I want to shift my perspective. I want to shift how I view this, how I know this. So I'm going to allow for big waves of energy to start to roll in. To break up and release imprints in your field. It takes a higher vibrational energy to come in. So what my guides usually do is bring in these, or my soul, my high self usually does, is bring in this big waves of pure source energy to come in and start to cleanse these imprints from my field. And it's through intention. If my intention is, okay, I know that I'm connected somewhere over here because I can feel that this part of my field, when I breathe in and I want to expand out, it just feels a little sticky, it feels a little tight. If I breathe in and my intention is to now release this imprint from my field, I'm not judging it as bad. I'm not judging the other person in the situation. I'm just saying I'm no longer wanting to look through this vibrational lens anymore. I'm wanting to shift it to something different. So I'm going to place my attention to where the restriction is. And if you have a hard time feeling, it's okay. Just hold the intention. Energy is infinitely intelligent. So you just hold the intention that wherever this restriction is in my field, I'm going to breathe new life into it. I'm going to bring new energy into it to start to release the imprint from my field. Good, I can feel a lot of you doing it. Now, let's bring in the mind consciousness, because the mind kind of wants to go into fear of, well, if I don't see it as this thing, if I don't direct it as good, bad, right, wrong, evil, victim, whatever, who am I in relationship to it? Another big wave of energy coming in. I'm just gonna let that question sit there for just a moment. Just get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Who am I in relationship to this experience, this thing, this trauma, this person, if I'm not seeing it through this lens? So just being okay with not being able to answer the question for a moment is really important. We always want to come back in with another definition, but we're just going to allow the mind to relax and breathe. So we're going to bring in a lot more energy. Another big wave of energy coming in. You can always ask your mind, tell it it's safe to drop into your heart space. And so you can say, mind, I ask you to drop into zone 1. Zone 1 for me is always my heart. So you can ask for your mind to drop into zone 1 and just relax. We don't have to know the answer to that. We don't have to know the answer to who am I in relationship to this experience if I'm not that. If I'm not that. If I'm not a victim to it. If I'm not in shame of it. If I'm not angered by it. If I'm not resentful. And if it was abuse of some kind that you're thinking of, it doesn't ever mean that whoever the abuser was and what they did was okay. It's never okay. But this is about taking your energy back, your power back, so that you can shift your perspective on your life view so that you can change your reality into something bigger, into something more expansive. And sometimes we look for meanings where there doesn't need to be a meaning per se. For example, we say like, well, it's easier for me to accept that I was abused like this because it has gifted me this. It's gifted me an insight, it's gifted me something. And if that calms you down, that's okay. But it can also just be an experience, and that's it. It was just something sucked that happened, and it was just an experience. But by gifting yourself this space between you and this experience, or you and this person, we're releasing the imprint. Another big wave of energy coming in, so hang with me. Just be patient. What we're saying when we shift perspective is that we are no longer allowing ourselves to be in resonance with this experience. We're no longer that person that suffered that abuse. We're no longer the person that was resentful in this relationship. We're no longer the person that is feeling shame over how they treated someone else. We're no longer that person. And we're not going to entrap ourselves or restrict ourselves or confine ourselves to those labels and to those imprints in our field anymore. We realize it was an experience. It was just a really, sometimes not great experience. But again, if we were standing on the moon looking down, as crappy as it may have been, it's really small when you think that you are and know that you're an infinite being of light. Right? Your soul is infinite. It lives on for eternity. Eternity is a really long time. And this one little experience, why would you ever allow this one little thing to define who you are, or what you can do, or who you can be in this world? Never, ever should we allow ourselves to shrink or shrivel or not voice the truth of who we are because of these tiny little experiences that may have felt massive because of the amount of pain or injury that occurred that wraps so tightly around the body and speaks so loudly in our tissues and in our brain and in our egos. But if we expand out and we release this imprint from our field, we can see how small it really is in the infinite lifelines that we have available to us. We always have been, we always will be. Energy can't be created or destroyed, it just changes form. We change from this physicality form into spirit form all the time. We are infinite. This experience is so small, so why would we even need to allow ourselves to be defined by something that doesn't help us radiate our true brilliance? So we don't always need to know in this now moment what the wisdom is to be gained from these past experiences or past relationships. We just have to decide that the imprint, we are no longer wanting to look through that lens in our field. I don't want to look through that frequency in my field. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't expand me. So I'm going to release it. I'm going to let it go through breath work, through calming down the nervous system and telling myself I'm safe, and then seeing that experience begin to deflate when you're not feeding it energy anymore because you've released the imprint. So maybe not today, maybe not this week, but sometime in the future, when you look back on these experiences, you're going to begin to see something different. You're going to have a different perspective about what this meant in your life because the frequency that you're seeing it through now has shifted and changed into something that is vibrating much faster, giving you access to a broader perspective. So again, if we continue to look at a relationship, an experience through an imprint in our field, we can only see that experience at the vibrational level of the imprint itself. So if it's anger, every time we look through it, we're going to be looking through it through the vibration of anger, and that's pretty much all we can see. If we begin to release that from our field, giving us space, allowing us to shift our perspective through breath work, through calming the nervous system down and telling our body that it's safe, calming the brain down, calming the ego down, bringing them into the heart space, taking these deep breaths, that allows us to expand our awareness so that we can then begin to see this experience, this person, this place, this thing through a higher dimensional realm, through a higher frequency, through a broader perspective. You begin to stand at the top of the ladder looking down instead of like at the bottom of the ladder looking up into it where it makes it look big. We're going to make it look smaller, right? And when we do that, when we realize how small it is, that it doesn't have power over us, but rather we have so much more power over it when we take our energy back. We shift our perspective, we shift the fields that we are playing in, and we begin to not allow ourselves to be defined by these past imprints in our field, enmeshments in our field, experiences, relationships, all the things. So take a breath. This one has to be done a little bit more slowly to give your body time to really relax into itself, because a lot of times if we look at these and we just dive right in, you're going to get triggered, and then trying to shift perspective or release an enmeshment from your field from a triggered state is really hard because your nervous system is in fight or flight. Breathe, relax, calm down, utilize like different things. Utilize the hypothalamus, breathing up to the brain. There's a lot of different breathing techniques you can use. So if you enjoyed the video, like it, share it, give comments down below if you have any questions or suggestions or anything else. And thank you so much for taking the time to check in with your body, to check in with yourself, and to shift perspectives.